I've noticed something, or I believe I've noticed something in your communications material over the last really few weeks, which is when you go somewhere, when you flew to England recently, when you announce a policy, there's a little phrase, when I'm Prime Minister. This is the sort of thing that we're going to be doing when I'm Prime Minister. And it reminds me of conscious decisions that previous opposition leaders have made. Sometimes they were prophetic, sometimes they were pathetic. But part of your job is to get Canadians who have a Prime Minister now used to the idea that there could be a different one. Is that something that you're consciously doing, and that you, part of the discourse that you need to have with Canadians a year and a half before the next election?
Well, I think it's a great point. I think there's a fine line between confidence and arrogance. And I would by no means presume to tell Canadians what's going to happen. The choice is ultimately with them. I am focused on earning their trust and putting forward a series of policies that resonate with them. And I hope that they see in me and my team of shadow ministers and my caucus a government in waiting that could step in the day after the election and govern this wonderful country. So when I use language like that, when I want to project the idea that I am confident, I believe very firmly that not only am I capable of doing it, but my team is capable of doing it, and that our policies will work for Canadians. So it's couched in that idea of, you know, I would like Canadians to think of me as being capable of doing it, while at the same time respecting the fact that it's not in my hands, it's in theirs, and I have to work hard to earn that trust.
You have a substantial challenge ahead of you. I am a bit of a student of political trivia. You're trying to unseat a first-term majority government. A new Prime Minister who was elected for the first time with a majority in the last election. You want him out in the next election. It's only happened twice since Confederation. R.B. Bennett in 1930 was elected with a majority, a big solid government, and then was out 5 years later. And in 1873, my fellow Sarnian, Alexander Mackenzie, won a majority government and then was out 5 years later. Those are the only two times since Confederation that we've had a one-and-done majority. Incidentally, both of those gentlemen were beat by the Prime Minister that they had defeated a few years earlier. So R.B. Bennett beat Mackenzie King and then was beat by Mackenzie King the next time. And Sandy Mackenzie beat Sir John A. Macdonald, and then 5 years later, Sir John A. didn't look so bad, and he came back. Do you think that this Prime Minister, who came in with a large majority, is vulnerable? And can you afford to have a two-election strategy? Can you afford to take a couple runs, or will the party not accept that from you?
Well, the second part of your question, I think, is a difficult one to answer, but I'll answer the first part first. Do I think it's possible? Yes, I do. I do come from the insurance world, so when you point out the fact that it hasn't happened in a while, my insurance brain tells me that we're due for one. the risk management strategy would say, okay, well, it's time for the third one. But I really do. I think, you know, voters, I don't believe, are bound by some of those traditions or conventions or however that may have happened over the years. I don't think voters think about that, say, well, you know, we usually give people 2 shots, so we'll give them a second one. I think the electorate in Canada and all around the world is much more dynamic, and anything that we might have thought about trends that usually happen, I don't believe you can count on them anymore. I'd ask you, you're a student of history, how many times the third place party has gone from third to first? That's pretty rare as well. So I think we're into an age of really anything can happen. It's going to be very competitive. I believe that there are more and more Canadians who I believe voted Liberal in the last election for a variety of reasons that are already disaffected and looking back to us as, say, okay, well, you know, maybe I voted Conservative in 2011, didn't really like how that worked out, but I'm open to coming back in 2019. My job now is to capture them. In terms of the timeline strategy, I was elected in 2004. We had 04, 06, 08 were minority governments, and then 2011 with the majority. I think anything can happen in any election, and I think our team and myself, I'm prepared for whatever Canadians elect in the next election, and I'm going to work very hard. The analogy I try to use is, you know, I wouldn't want to, if I were a football coach, I wouldn't want anybody on the field that didn't believe we could win in 2019, didn't believe we could win the next big game, but nor would I want anybody on my team that thought that we were definitely going to win the big game, and I want people on my team who believe it's possible, know it's possible, but don't take it for granted, and work incredibly hard to make sure we are successful.
Okay.